Ba. We are live, everyone. Welcome to episode 59 of Everything Teams Phone Live. Brandon, we've got a special guest. We fixed a bug that we found last week on our StreamYard thing that's been plaguing us lately, and it was the video and audio local recording that was bogging down the PC and creating some lag between us. And lo and behold, last week, Brandon and I figured it all out, and we're off and clean and ready to roll. And we're excited because we got a cool guest on that we want to chat to him about his the platform. Ali, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Rick. Glad to be joining you guys again. For those who don't know me, I'm Ollie at Luware. So I'm head of sales here, looking after the UK region and North America region at the moment. So yeah, great to be on. Looking forward to getting stuck into it.
And let's not be so serious, Ollie. If people are in the greater London area, they should look you up for a beverage on a Thursday.
Yeah, 100%. If you're around in London, then yeah, hit me up and we can go out. I'll show you some of the pubs. That'd be good.
And I've had a beer with Ollie. He's a good guy to have a beer with. So just if you're in the area, look him up.
I do want to say that as a warning. So if we could put like asterisks, warning kind of things, like a sign up or something, right? So warning though, Ollie, this was news to me, right? American guy popping over to London, hitting the pub on a Thursday night. We took a poll at the pub. Brandon and I were at one night because I'm sitting there going, it's Thursday night. It's like 11:30 p.m. Coming up on midnight, and I'm like, it's bustling in here. Like, don't people go home for Friday? Brandon, what was the answer there, Brandon? What was the outcome of that poll?
Oh yeah, the outcome was first of all, they looked at us like we were crazy because Thursday nights are like the nights that people go out in London, because I think the reasoning was a lot now the work scene has shifted where people are working maybe from home on Fridays. So I don't know if it's always been this way, but kind of the opinion was, hey, everyone's in the office on Thursdays. We get off work, let's all go to the pub. And yeah, we were kind of surprised at how busy the pub was on a Thursday night. And
I think even before COVID though, we had the term Thirsty Thursdays. So I think right on, if it's a Friday, you're probably going out with your friends or your family or whatever. But so Thursdays were I like for colleagues, and then the weekend is for everything else. But I'm not surprised you got that reaction at midnight on a Thursday night, because probably the only people left there had probably had a few beverages and were probably quite juiced up by that point. Yeah. So you're probably you're getting a skewed answer there. Probably.
We have a story, Ollie, that we can talk and tell you after the podcast about our experience on that.
Thirsty Thursday. I'm going to post that. Thirsty Thursday. I love it.
So before we jump in, though, I think another thing worth noting is I think about a month from this week, June 25th, 26th timeframe is Commsverse 2024 in. I don't remember the town, but Mercedes-Benz World,
Cobham,
in the London area. Ollie, are you going to be there?
Yeah, I'll definitely be there. Yeah, it's always a good event. That I think it's the third time now, maybe third or fourth time that they're running that event. But yeah, it's a great event. I think you have something similar over in the US, but essentially it's a community event where everybody in the Microsoft Teams community kind of gets together, and there's some really interesting talks going on. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. But I'll definitely be there.
Cool. Yeah. I like it. It's Commsverse. I'm going to show the screen real quick here. Let's just show. It's commsverse.com. It is the 26th and 27th of June at Mercedes-Benz World in the UK. And it is, I think it's labeled the world's largest Microsoft Teams collaboration show, something like that. I can't remember what they called it, but we know not the promoters, but the founders of the show, and they do a quality job on getting getting organizations together and putting out great content for the community and for customers of Microsoft and for partners. It's a really really exciting show. We've been to the US version, which was Comes Next, and that's all we walk away from that show every year going, wow, this was so good. It was even better, and you learn so much. Very engineering, technical centric, sort of capability centric show. So you can go see kind of what the latest and greatest is in Microsoft Teams. So that's pretty awesome, and we're excited to get out there. And Brandon, solid point on bringing that up.
Yeah, a lot of these shows are kind of focused around kind of just companies being able to prospect new customers, and you're standing at a stand and then you're just trying to grab anybody walking by to try and sell to them. But yeah, this is a bit different. It's more about sharing knowledge, seeing people in the industry. It's really enjoyable.
That's exactly what we found at Coms Next, and that's why we walked away going, wow, that's really cool. And my camera's moving a whole lot. Okay, let's do this. Ollie, one of the things that historically has been difficult on Microsoft Teams has been omnichannel. Like omnichannel has been one of the things where it just hasn't been that present. You look to and if you look to omnichannel, you'd say, hey, look at a contact center that's maybe not in the extend program type of thing, right? And I think it's worth, before we dive into omnichannel, Ollie, talking about the 2 or 3 different types of integrations. I know there's 3, but I don't think anybody's in that third one. So there's really kind of 2 main integrations with Teams as a contact center. Could you walk through both of those for us, Ollie?
Yeah, sure. So we've got a few different ways that Microsoft have certified as connecting to Teams or integrating into Teams. So the first one is Connect, second one is Extend, and then the third one is Power. So Connect and Extend currently are the only 2 that Microsoft actually certify, which is why we don't see anybody in the Power category yet, because there isn't a certification program for that. We're expecting that probably next year, 2025. So the Connect model, that essentially means that you take an existing contact center platform, so whether that's cloud-based or even on-premise based, obviously most of them are cloud-based now, and then you essentially send your calls to Microsoft Teams to be answered there. But all of the routing and all of the intelligence is in a third-party cloud platform. So there are loads out there, but some ones to mention everyone will know is the likes of kind of RingCentral or 8x8. They have their own UCaaS and CCaaS platforms, and then they're essentially just using Teams to deliver the call. Now, with the Extend integration model, this is where you're basically controlling the Teams call. So all of the intelligence happens inside Microsoft Teams. So if we think about the way that a call is routed, a call can be routed via direct routing, Operator Connect, even Microsoft calling plans. Extend will support all of those incoming call methods. And then the Extend model really only picks up once that call hits the customer's Teams environment. So once you have the call in Teams, the call remains a Teams call, but the contact center provider, in our scenario, Nimbus, is essentially the brains there. It's the puppet master pulling the strings. So the call stays a Teams call the whole time. And then you're using the Graph API, which is the API for Microsoft, to say, okay, we're going to send this call to this user based on their availability, because we know they're available in Teams. So the primary difference there is that the Connect model is the intelligence and the routing is happening outside of Teams, and the Extend model is happening inside Teams.
What are some of the benefits, Ollie, of being Extend, right? I know it's, I would just, my first thought is extensive use of the Power Platform, but what does that translate into for a customer right now? What would that mean to a customer?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of different kind of benefits. Some are architectural, and then some are user-based. Let's cover the user-based ones first, because they're probably going to be more widely appreciated. So from a user perspective, on an Extend integration model, when you get that call as a user, so when it's your turn to answer that call, it is just a Teams call. Okay, you can do everything that you can normally do with a Teams call. You can transfer it, you can add people into the call, use the dial pad. You can answer on your team's mobile device. So from a user, when you're answering that call, that could be the same. That's exactly the same as a call directly to your DDI, or as a call from a Teams call queue, or a call from an extended contact center. So from the user perspective, it makes it so much more simple, because they're not having to worry about answering that call in a different app, or then answering it in Teams and then using a different app to transfer it, for example. It's all just in that Teams calling window. Now, from an architectural perspective, it really means that you're cutting down the routing that call is doing. So on the Connect model, when that call comes in, it's first of all going through a third-party session border controller normally, coming into Teams, and then the majority of the time it actually gets routed back out to another SBC, which means that you're doubling up the amount of SIP trunks you need, or at least you're doubling up the amount of routes that call takes. So you're essentially routing that call into a platform, then back out, and then back in again. And if anybody knows kind of voice routing, that's where issues around latency, jitter, and just general call quality comes in. You want to try and minimize the amount of tromboning that call is doing.
I want to piggyback on that, on both the user and the architectural design, and the benefits there, because I think it's a very underappreciated thing when we talk about the extend model. And I don't even think that the I'm going to say the enterprise space or the customer base even comprehends yet. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I just mean in the industry, having come from a big contact center background myself for 5+ years, the industry has just kind of accepted that it's okay to have disparate routing systems for voice calls, one for the contact center, one for the enterprise, for the corporate phone functionality. And it creates this convoluted routing mess where agents have, sticky notes or whatever, reminding them of what maybe prefix code they got to dial to get back into the back office, to get into the corporate, PBX phone system, to get to that back office worker or that knowledge worker. I think as this becomes more common practice, meaning what you're doing at Luware, and people that light bulb starts to come on for people, where they start to realize, oh my goodness, my contact center is the same phone system as my corporate phone system. And now my agents, if they're trying to get it to a knowledge worker, say Rick is the knowledge worker and I'm the contact center person, I now have the call in my Teams app, just like you stated, Ollie, where it's the normal Teams phone. I go to transfer that call. I look up Rick Garcia. Now I can look him up by identity versus remembering some convoluted code and first maybe sending him a message to see if he's available. Now we know in Teams, I can do a chat consultation transfer with Rick, or I can do just a consultative transfer, or even a blind transfer. But the other benefit I get is I automatically get to see Rick Garcia's presence. So I can immediately deduce whether he's free or not. And let me tell you, he's never free. He keeps this
D&D the whole time.
But that's a big one. I think companies, they've just accepted this disparity that when we talk to them about it, it's almost like it just washes over them. Like, why is that a selling point? And I think it's going to take a while for the industry to catch up to that. But when they do, I think it's going to be a game changer.
I think one of the things that I really like is that you're able to, and I think about the Power Platform, and I'm going to talk about just from not necessarily from an architecture perspective, what kind of is, but the utilization of the entire ecosystem of the Microsoft platform is what becomes really interesting. And Brandon, as we unveiled our Fax to Teams application last week, right? We know we make extensive use of the Power Platform, and let Power Automate as an example, where we drop faxes into someone's Salesforce or Epic or Cerner, right? Automatically, faxes come in, get sent over to to the SharePoint group or whatever, or OneDrive, and it's stored in their thing. But it's also notifications go out, and it's also sent over to to a patient file automatically, right? Those sorts of things, right? So we understand how that Power Automate platform works and some of the things that we set up for organizations. So seeing how Luware makes use of the Power Platform with phone calls in real time is pretty interesting. So I think we should just kick off, Ollie, and talk about kind of give us a tour around, and just as a disclaimer, really quick for everyone that's listening. Momentum does resell Luware as part of our package, right? Momentum is partnered with Luware. We're obviously huge fans of Luware and Ollie specifically. So I do want to give that disclaimer that as unbiased as we like to be, there is that notification that we do sell and support Luware. All right, Ollie, let's do this, buddy.
Yeah. So just as you kind of mentioned there, Rick, we one of the reasons we want to be on that extend model is because it gives us access to the wider Microsoft ecosystem, and this is a message that really larger corporates who are using some of these tools, this is something that resonates with them, because they're probably using tools like Power Automate, cognitive services, potentially definitely Power BI in other areas of the business. And then we can say, okay, because we're built on that extend model, you can start using some of these tools now to integrate into your CRM system, or we can now start delivering some of your contact center reporting in Power BI, or we can use Azure Communication Services to take a video call from the website and route that via a Teams meeting. So one of the reasons we always wanted to be on that extend model is because it really gives us access to those other tools in the Microsoft ecosystem, and that we have a decent development team that we're very proud of, but we're never going to have the development power that Microsoft have. So as they're driving investment into Azure Communication Services and the Power Platform, it just means that we can leverage those and really harness those investments that they're making to make our offering stronger. So yeah, that's definitely a great point, Rick, in terms of how we can access that wider Microsoft ecosystem.
All right,
Ollie, this is a curious question, just because you've got this diagram up, and I'm going to ask selfishly and as subvertly as possible, just to take advantage of your presence. I see on this diagram you've got Azure Communication Services, and you've got a few icons out there, but I see this Facebook and WhatsApp icon sitting off on the on the one side of the diagram. My question for you, because you're in the European market space more so than we are as Momentum, how often do you see enterprises wanting that third-party connection to, say, WhatsApp? Because we know WhatsApp is a massive channel of communication, at least in the private sector, like peer-to-peer. But how big is that maybe in the commercial space in the European market? Do you see that often?
Yeah, I think WhatsApp is one of those that organizations always want to, when they're choosing a contact center provider, they want to know that it's possible to route WhatsApp messages. And therefore, if we're thinking about a tender situation, it's one of those things that they want to know is possible. But when we actually go to deployment, it's probably the last channel that they actually want to deploy. So I think it's definitely being used, and customers are definitely conscious that they want to have this in their kit bag. But certainly we're still seeing voice as the primary channel, then email, web chat, and then some of these other social medias kind of come last, like WhatsApp and Messenger and Twitter, for example. I'm probably going to get in trouble from my marketing team because this is definitely out of date now. The email here, the WhatsApp, the chat, this shouldn't be grayed out anymore, because we can start routing some of these using Nimbus. So maybe we can take a bit of a look at those today and show you how we can route, for example, an email and a instant message. I think that might be quite interesting. So
yeah,
just gonna actually get this on my other screen quickly. So
and while you bring that up, the only reason I ask is there's times, and I'm definitely not in the direct sales channel, meaning I'm not necessarily the one talking to the customer all the time, but sometimes I feel like when enterprises are qualifying a vendor, whether they think they need it or not, it's almost like this automatic checkbox that they just go, oh, well, if you can do it, then you'll stay in the running, versus it seems like sometimes if a vendor can't do something, it's easier just to dismiss that vendor. So kind of one of the reasons I asked was, the ability to show that flexibility from a integration perspective, because I think it helps win the successes in the enterprise space.
Yeah, it really
just
does.
having the capability, right? Just having the capability that you can do it in the future, right? That was kind of the text messaging thing a while back, was if you couldn't do text messaging in some way, shape, or form, right? Then that wasn't something that they didn't want to go with you, right? As if you didn't do that. But now it's pretty ubiquitous across carriers at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Customers don't want to close doors. They want to keep their options open. So I think, it might be quite interesting just to show you a couple of different channels coming into our Nimbus contact center then. So first of all here, I'm going to just create an email. So we can really easily connect mailboxes to Nimbus. So this is just a standard mailbox that's been connected to Nimbus. I'll give it a subject. So I'll say, hi, LinkedIn. Welcome to everything Teams Phone Live. So I'm going to send this message in now to our queue. So that queue is connected to our Nimbus contact center. So this is the live dashboard, which is connected to that email queue. Okay. So you'll notice now that this task is now sitting in the queue. Okay. So we can see that task there. It's waiting in the queue. We can see how long it's been waiting for. There's currently nobody available in that queue. I'm going to log into that now. And now when I log into that, that should be distributed to me. So I need to just finish the other task that I was in. And now you'll see in my Nimbus Assistant here, this is essentially going to pop up wherever I am on my desktop. And it's going to ask me, a bit like a phone call, do I want to accept or decline that email? So I'm going to say, yes, I want to accept it. Now, I can see in my live dashboard here that email has now changed state to connected. We can see which agent is connected to. And as a user, I would go to my sessions dashboard here to actually answer that email. So this is the dashboard that we have for users where they can see all of their live interactions. And then we can pull through some other widgets here to really help them answer that interaction. So for example, it might be helpful for us to actually pull through some information from a CRM system here about who that person is that's emailing in. It might also be helpful to trigger a screen pop. So we could actually trigger a screen pop just like we would on a phone call on an inbound email. But here we have the email. And if I full screen that here, I can now reply to this email directly within Teams, within my Nimbus app. I can format that email. I can add other addresses there. I can mark it with high importance, add attachments, and I can say, hi, how can I help? And then send that back. And then once I've sent that back, it's going to be obviously sent, and now I'm available to take another task. So all of the routing that we've built, all of the dashboards that we've built for voice, and we spent a lot of time developing those over the last couple of years, are now applicable to these other channels. So we'll be able to see emails, web chats, social media messages in all of our dashboards. And then we just use our My Sessions dashboard here to actually respond to those, pull information here from CRMs, and use codes and tags. So it's a very similar experience responding to an email as it is a phone call.
That's pretty handy. I mean, that's like email. You said for you guys, is it? Do you find email is the second most popular channel these days?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably a toss up between email and web chat. I think email is probably what would be implemented quickest, because a lot of our customers in contact center teams are usually working from a shared mailbox anyway. So it makes sense to bring that into Nimbus straight away. With web chat, it's definitely there on the agenda for a lot of our customers, but it involves quite a few more stakeholders. So obviously it involves marketing probably. There's normally a kind of a web team. So to get web chat implemented, it normally is a few more stakeholders than just the contact center.
Do you just this is personal opinion for you? How much do you see web chat growing as a channel, and not necessarily what you're seeing at Luware today? I'm talking your personal opinion of web chat.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I use web chat quite a lot. I think you'll often find that a lot of businesses now, especially e-commerce businesses, are hiding phone numbers or really not trying not to present a phone number, and they're pushing you to the web chat. I think whenever I see that, I go to the web chat because I know that's probably where you're going to get the best service if they're pushing you that way. If you go onto a website and you see right at the top in big bold letters a phone number, then I would call that phone number because that's where that's probably where they're investing their resources. So when I'm personally interacting with a company, I will kind of try and look at where they're trying to push you, because that's probably where I'm going to get the best service. But yeah, I'm certainly happy to use a web chat if I can't find a phone number or it's not immediately obvious.
It's
Yeah.
that's an interesting and everyone has their preference, right? I'm very opposite of you, Ollie. Even if I see the big bold phone number, I'm not going to call it, because I think maybe it's in the US, maybe it's the large enterprises I've had to deal with personally. I won't name any names, but like internet service providers who notoriously have really, really bad customer service. And for me, it's just painful knowing, okay, I got to call this number, I got to sit on hold, then I got to talk to someone who I know probably, even though they're skilled in the queue, they're tier 1 and maybe I need tier 2 or 3. Whereas the same company finally rolled out a chat feature that not only allowed chat as the omni-channel, but I started as a web chat and they escalated it. They allowed me to escalate it to SMS because I wanted to go mobile. I'm like, hey, I got to run, but I need you to solve this problem. They said, well, hey, we can convert you to SMS to keep the conversation going. Do you want to go? And I'm like, yes, let's do that. And it allowed me to respond more at my convenience, selfishly as that sounds. But I think that's what the at the end of the day, that's the customer experience. And I'm not discounting voice. I'm just saying that's my opinion.
Well, and then because I'm older now, I prefer almost exclusively the phone. However, more and more, and this is I'm going to say the last year. Okay, the last year I've done more and more chat than I've ever done, and it's predominantly, I think, is because the experience on chat has gotten better and better and better. People are more attentive. They have more sophisticated systems like Luware sitting behind the scenes, right? Where now I feel like, okay, I'm being heard. I'm not routed, to somewhere where I've got to explain it 5 times. There's technology now that keeps my conversation active throughout multiple people if needed. So I feel like as chat gets better, I'm able to use it more effectively, and I feel better about using it than I did before. Right? I was exclusively phone, and then more recently I've kind of started to convert a little bit because the experience has been pretty darn good when it comes to chat these days, or web chat these days. But let's. What are you showing us now, Ollie?
Yeah, let's take a look at the web chat then. So here on the right hand side of my screen, this is that kind of customer experience, right, of visiting a website and then starting a web chat. So that's on the right hand side of my screen. And on the left hand side of the screen, I'm showing the agent experience. Okay, so here we have a widget. This widget is available out of the box, or you can use our SDK to customize this widget. So we can take some normal kind of information here, email, name, an initial message to find out more information. For example, we can ask them to accept a privacy policy, and this name and this email address here we can use as parameters in our routing or in our messages, and I'll talk a bit about that afterwards. So I'm going to start that interaction there. And then on the left-hand side of my screen, this should be delivered to me as a web chat, as an agent. So you'll see here immediately, I'm being sent a Teams notification, so I'm being delivered a web chat, and I'm also getting that notification in my Nimbus Assistant. So I'm not going to miss that as an agent, right? I'm getting sent a Teams message, and I'm getting it sent in my Nimbus Assistant here. So I can answer that again, just like a phone call, okay? We can pull out screen pops if we want to. We can add codes for reporting purposes there. So everything we can do on a phone call, everything we can do on an email, we can now do on a chat. So as a user visiting the chat bot on the website, I can now see I'm connected. And now the really interesting thing that we decided to do here was actually use Teams chat to respond to these web chats. Now, when we were thinking about web chat, we could have built our own chat responder in Nimbus. However, chat is a core component of Microsoft Teams. So just like Teams calling, we want to use the Teams calling window. We want that user to live in Teams. So when a user is responding to a chat, it makes sense for us to use the Teams chat. Okay. So here I could respond to this in my Teams desktop app. I could respond to this in my Teams mobile app if I wanted to. And I can seamlessly talk back and forward via Teams with that person on the web chat. So I can send links here. I can send messages here via Teams natively. And obviously, every time I send a message back from the web chat, it's going to give me a notification in Teams. So that's the really unique way that we built this. We're the first company to actually build web chat in Teams natively, because for us, it didn't make sense to build a separate chat engine when we had Teams as a chat engine there, and everyone's familiar with using Teams for chat.
That is a huge differentiator, okay? Because organizations don't want to go sign into some other application. They don't want to have another application embedded into Teams to go do their chat, right? Chat is a core competency of Teams, so utilizing the Teams chat, I like that. I think that's really cool. It simplifies things for the agent. I think it makes it faster to respond, shaving off seconds, minutes, whatever it may be. And as that accumulates in your contact center, I think those are the things that we try and do. So that's pretty cool. I like that it's right there, and you got the notification that comes in, as well as your normal sort of Teams chat. Can you send documents back and forth also, or is it kind of messages, videos, those sorts of things?
Yeah, at the moment, I don't think documents is supported. I think it's something we're looking into currently, but you can definitely send URL links.
Yeah, that's important.
So
that's great.
That would be a better way to share documents, is sharing links to a knowledge base, for example.
Yep. Okay, that's cool.
I just wanted to touch on how we route these types of interactions. So anyone that's familiar with Luware, we have this concept of workflows. So a workflow is essentially how we govern the routing of interactions when they come into a Nimbus service. So we can build a workflow for AV, so voice. We can build a workflow now for instant messaging, email, and external tasks. External tasks is what is giving us the ability to route those social media messages, those SMS messages. So essentially, we can use the same workflow building tool for any of these interactions. So if I show you an example here of an instant messaging, which is web chat, then I'll show you how we can actually build out a web chat workflow. And we've got some really interesting options here. So we start with a blank canvas, so we can basically take this routing anywhere that we like. So let's start by doing some normal kind of routing stuff, like checking opening hours. So on a web chat service, in exactly the same way that we'd have a check opening hours on a voice service, we probably will want to route our web chats differently depending on whether we're open or we're closed. So when we're open, we can send it down to the queue, so we can queue that task. But when we're closed, we might actually just want to play them back an automated message here telling them our opening hours. So in this automated message, we can take through some parameters. So we can say, hi, display name. That's the name they entered when they were starting the web chat. How can we help you? So there we could just say, we are closed at the moment and our opening hours are X, okay? And then we can just list our opening hours, okay? What we can also do with these messages is we can start to automate using some other parameters. So let's say, for example, when we're open, we want to play them a message asking them what they're contacting us about. So we can play them that message, ask them what they're contacting us about, and then we can take out different options. We'd actually use the input customer for this. So a bit like an IVR here, we can actually take some options here. So we can say, okay, if they say customer service or ticket or order, or we can send it down to a certain queue. So let's say this is like our customer support input. Okay, so if they've entered any words that are to do with customer support, we're going to send them there. And then if they enter any words to do with like sales, we're going to send them down to a sales queue. So here, just a bit like an IVR, we can actually route them off to different places. Maybe we have different chat teams answering different types of queries. So we can transfer that one off to the support chat queue. Now, if they have a sales inquiry, then maybe we want to actually play them back some automated information here. So we can, for example, take a custom parameter and actually start telling them about the order that they've just placed. So we can actually say, your order is in the delivery state, for example, or we could ask them to put in their order ID before we take that and then look up their order state. So we can collect like an order ID from them. So these are all the same concepts that we would use in a voice IVR, but now we can actually use these in an instant messaging or web chat workflow here, where we can take information from them, look that up against the CRM, play back automated messages. And this is all before they've even spoken to an agent. When they do speak to an agent, we can still check whether there's somebody available there to actually handle that interaction. And then we can queue that task. And we've still got all of the settings around queuing that task there, around the timeouts, etc. So everything that we've built from a voice perspective, we now have with emails, chats, and these external tasks there. And customers can manage this all themselves.
And that's pretty cool. This is, to me, this is interesting. The whole hours that you're open, being able to kind of collect information from, from a CRM and pull it back into the chat so that you've got a smart discussion right now. I wouldn't go and say this is AI right here. This is just a smart discussion because it's got the right information right in front of you and you're giving it paths, right? So that's, I think that's pretty awesome. Again, keeping the chat right in Teams, but prompting some of this stuff in front of the customer. I think that's pretty awesome. That's a useful chat right there.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Brandon, what do you think?
No, I think it's good to show this that, it's, I'm going to oversimplify it, of course, but it's as simple as setting up that same logic as a call flow, like, and not just simple, but powerful and robust in the sense that, it's really great that Luware thought, multiple steps ahead in the routing logic of you don't need a separate chat agent for this and a separate chat agent for that. You can just logically route the call based on, or the chat based on parameters that it receives. And you probably can get as granular as you want, I assume.
Yeah, definitely. This can be simple or complex. Yeah.
Ali, what are you seeing when customers, are you seeing this more for a support sort of inquiry into your organization deployments more, or are you seeing people successfully use this as a sales driver for having sales sitting behind the scenes behind the queue here in chat? Are you seeing organizations deploy more for service or more for sales?
Yeah, I think this probably is for a use case where you want to get it to an agent as quickly as possible. So obviously here I've shown you how we can automate some of it, which is great, but I think you've got a couple of different types of contact centers. Now, most would fall into the camp of they want their customers speaking to their agents as quickly as possible. Some are falling now into the camp of actually they want to try and avoid that. And they want to try and automate as much of it as possible and use AI and chatbots, etc. This, especially the way it comes directly into the Teams chat, I think is really, really powerful for those users, or sorry, for those use cases. But actually, you just want to make sure that when somebody goes on their web chat, they can get to an agent who's available in Teams straight away. Okay, whether they're on their Teams mobile device, on their Teams mobile app, or just sitting at their desktop. Okay, if your goal is to try and automate this and to try and bat away the inquiries with AI, I'd say this probably isn't the right tool. But if you really just need to get people connected, then this is going to be perfect, because first of all, we're sending this directly to somebody in Teams. So there's absolutely no case where they would be in another team's meeting or another team's call. This is going to go to somebody who's available, and they're going to get notified of this straight away. And even if they're not at their desk, they're going to be able to answer it. So I'd say that's probably the use case that we're going after, and this is most useful for, where you just want to get somebody connected as soon as possible so they can start adding value to that interaction.
So I'm going to put you on the spot, Ollie, and I'm going to ask a question on the routing logic of that message. So if I'm a user, I pop open the web chat, I fill out the information, I hit chat, and it alerts you on your Teams and then your little Nimbus agent helper application. Do you have the logic to time that out and move it on to the next agent, or is it set up where you can notify all agents that are available? Can you do like a round robin fashion? And I guess the reason I'm asking is I'm an agent. I've gone mobile. I've forgotten to put my status out of queue, and I get prompted to respond to a message in Teams. I assume there's safeguards in place to make sure that there's other agents who can step in case someone has accidentally, left themselves available and walked away.
Yeah, 100%. So when we deliver it to the queue here, when we say queue task, that's when we're basically trying to find agents who are available. In the Rona timeout here, that's how long we're essentially ringing each agent before we move on to somebody else. So here, as 30 seconds, we're saying we're going to deliver this chat to each person for 30 seconds. And if they don't accept it within 30 seconds, that's when we go on to the next available person. So it's just like a phone call. It's going to essentially hunt for an available agent, and it's only going to do that for the amount of time that you set up here in the Rona timeout.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I think for me, it's important to verify that, because I think oftentimes people don't view messaging in the same light that they view call routing, right? And I think this is great to show that really the logic is essentially or virtually the same.
Yeah, and we can even apply our skills-based routing to this. So if you want to take it a step further, rather than just going longest idle, we can actually say, okay, these users have a higher skill level for chat, okay, but maybe lower for voice. So we want to target them for chat, and therefore they're going to receive more chat messages. So all of the skills-based routing that we built for our voice will actually apply to chat distribution, email distribution, and external task distribution.
I mean, this is really cool. I love all this stuff. This is the omni-channel piece has been missing from Teams for a long time. You guys made it super simple. You brought it right into Teams. I think this is great. Question for you: I'd love to see some of the things that you're most proud of inside Luware. Some of the things that you think are exciting. I'd love to understand, what are the industries that you typically serve, right? So what are those? What kind of organizations do you guys see taking down Nimbus as the platform for their contact center? I'd love those two questions, if you don't mind, in tandem. I'd love to just see kind of what you think is super exciting. I think the chat is exciting for me, because I think chat is going to be by 2030. I think I read somewhere it's going to be $100 billion business at that point. Web chat, just because I think that's a channel that as the age group that grew up with mobile phones and omni-channel, that group comes into the decision-making sort of process, and they become the majority buyers. I think that's going to prevail as a dominating sort of channel versus voice. I think maybe it'll never be on par, but I think it's going to be pretty darn close, because I don't know very many people that are excited to make a phone call or take a phone call these days. I mean, and I'm in the phone business, right? I love this stuff. But I think a lot of people prefer, a text or a chat or something like that, as, again, that age group sort of starts to become decision makers and the majority buyers. So I'd love to see some of the things that you're proud of, and then just would love to see, kind of who takes down Nimbus that you guys see typically.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that doesn't really get enough credit or attention, but I certainly find really cool, and maybe this because this is probably just a bit of an indictment on me, that I find reporting dashboards cool, but bear with me. With our contact center, we have the ability to build these custom dashboards. And I think these are really powerful. We have a lot of out-of-the-box dashboards. I showed you one already, which are kind of fixed, so you can start working on Nimbus straight away, and you can see your live dashboards. But what a lot of our customers move to quite quickly is saying, "Oh, well, I really like that widget on that dashboard and this widget on that dashboard, but I want to combine them." And what you'll often find in a lot of contact centers is that you can't really do that. You can't really build your own dashboards. So here, for example, we can go into create new, and then we can start building our own dashboard straight away. So this is a blank canvas here, and you've got access to all of our widgets to start choosing from. So let's say, for example, I want to have a service KPI tile. I want to have a comparison chart, and then I want to have a user supervisor table. So immediately I can add those widgets, and then I can just go into edit mode, and I can start saying, okay, so for this tile here, I want this to actually show us how many tasks we have in the queue. And I want that to show us for the last 30 days. And I want that to show us for multiple different services. So that's going to show us reporting, Nottingham there, and the UK contact center queue. So immediately it's going to total up those tasks. I can add a filter on this. I can then say, for example, once this is over, let's say 10, that means we're kind of meeting our threshold and we want it to turn red, okay? Because that's meeting our kind of SLA at that point. So I can then save that. And then when I save that there, it's immediately going to show us how many tasks are queued. And we've got a big problem. There are 201,000 tasks in the queue. So we're clearly exceeding that SLA. So yeah, just using these widgets here, you can move these around. Contact center supervisors and managers can just really quickly and easily start building their perfect view for what's important to them, whether that's seeing user information, queue information. They can just build out that perfect view for them. If I back out here, we'll see some nicer ones that I spent some time building earlier. We can see, for example, live calls. We can whisper into them straight away. We can see who's in wrap-up time, who's in which profile there. So just building out that customizable view just gives so much flexibility and control to the contact center managers.
That's great. Those are beautiful. What was the Salesforce widget? I'd love to see what the Salesforce widget was.
Yeah, let's jump into that really quickly. The Salesforce one is essentially using our embedded widget. So if we go into that one here, I will log just really quickly into Salesforce so this works properly. Essentially, we allow you to embed CRM widgets in those dashboards. So if I show you our Salesforce one here, what this is going to do is it's going to show you all your cases in Salesforce. So I can view here all my open cases. So maybe I'm managing a ticket queue in Salesforce or ServiceNow, for example. I can manage my queue in Salesforce here along with my contact center queues. So I can see how many users we have available, and we can actually route Salesforce tickets via Nimbus if we wanted to. So we can route tickets from a CRM or ticketing system via Nimbus and use all of the routing that we've already talked about. So it's really powerful tool.
And is that an integration that is using the Salesforce sort of app builder, or what is that? How is that deployed for a customer?
Yeah, it depends what CRM they're using. Here we're using something from Salesforce called Visual Files. And I think a good way to think of it is a bit like an iframe, right? We're just embedding an iframe into this page. But yeah, specifically with Salesforce, it's using a Salesforce tool called Visual Files.
That's cool. That's really interesting. I mean, like I said, our fax earlier, we did the same thing where we dropped information right into a fax case, right, based on who was sending it back and things like that. So, and that was Power Automate, and then over into just integrating with the Salesforce API. But this is pretty awesome because it looks fantastic to be able to monitor your cases, so you can dually monitor activity in your contact center, and then activity right in your Salesforce if people are living in. Are you finding that people live in if they're living in a system, so they're living in Teams, let's just say, right? And they've got your contact center sitting in Teams. Are they also living in Salesforce in a lot of cases for organizations if they're doing support or service, things like that?
Yeah, users definitely are. So yeah, users are definitely living in the CRM system, which is why we use this Nimbus assistant here to pop up on top of whatever we're doing. So if we're sitting in Salesforce here, we can use the Nimbus assistant here to pop up and show us our codes and our tags and how that flow got to me. So it's essentially going to pop up on top of that. But I'd say supervisors might be sitting more in the contact center. So yeah, it really depends on what the user role is. But I think users will be sitting in the CRM, but supervisors will be sitting in the contact center, which is why it might be helpful to embed a widget here. And then using the external tasks, we can actually start routing these tasks via the contact center. So we know who's available and we can say, okay, we're going to deliver this ticket to this user because we know they have the right skill level and we know they're available.
Got it. So I'm just going to make sure I've got this right, Ali. I go, Ali, what's exciting and what's cool to you in the contact center? And you go to reporting. I just want to make sure I've got this right. Yes. Is that?
Yeah. I'm starting to regret that a little bit now.
Though I think reporting is a bigger deal than most people realize, and I say that casually, but a lot of conversations I'm in, whether it's now with Momentum talking to potential customers or it's my previous contact center life, you cannot believe the amount of reporting large enterprises require in very tight intervals for their workforce management system. So I think reporting, it might make you sound like an analytic geek or whatever, but
I wasn't going to say it, Brandon.
At the end of the day, it's a really important feature because listen, you can have a contact center that has all these bells and whistles for features, but if you can't report on it and you can't create a good data flow into workforce management, whether that's automated or manual, what is your contact center actually going to do for you?
Yeah. Ollie, what are some of the industries that you guys are very popular in?
So I think it's quite an interesting question because when people imagine a contact center, they imagine a team of 100 people or 200 people sat in a room just answering calls all day or making calls all day. We've seen we do have some of those customers, but the majority of our customers are actually not really traditional contact center users. They're knowledge workers. They're users that it is not their primary role to actually answer calls and handling customer interactions. But when they do handle those interactions, the value that they're bringing means that it's worth investing in a contact center solution. So, for example, in the US, we have a large kind of housing provider. They're one of the top housing builders in the US. They have hundreds of agents from us, and they actually use that for their sales team. Okay, so when people are ringing in, they obviously want to make sure that if somebody's ringing in to buy a new house, then the primary thing for them, the most important thing, is to make sure that somebody who's available can answer that call as quickly as possible, because the value of that call is hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially. So if they miss it, they might go somewhere else. So we're seeing a lot more of those kind of use cases where it's not the traditional battery farm contact center, as we would call it.
Got it. That is interesting. That's awesome. I think that kind of lends itself to what I was thinking about, from a contact center perspective, for the chat and the analytics and the, kind of bringing the omni-channel sort of into the organization. I feel like, the different channels are on the rise and people are really making sure that they capture that information, can report on that information, because I think organizations are becoming more efficient because the tools are making it simple to be more efficient, right? You got a tool like Luware sitting in front of you, you're able to calculate what the value of having that tool is. As we approach the top of the hour, Ollie, what I'd like to do is say, if customers out there are asking about Luware or asking about a contact center, what's what's your value proposition that you kind of lean on when you talk about, Luware as a contact center for organizations?
Yeah, I think we covered it at the start of the show, really around the integration model. We're doing everything in the Microsoft ecosystem. So if a customer has that Microsoft strategy, then yeah, we fit really nicely into that because we're using those tools. I think that the primary thing really, which is why a customer would choose Luware as opposed to another CCaaS provider, of which there are many out there, and a lot of them are doing some really great stuff, is I think the question is how important is it to have everything in Teams, right? So for some use cases, actually loads of AI, automation, that is more important, right? And therefore having it in a different client when it is delivered to the agent, that's not such a big deal. And that's fine. And there are loads of CCaaS solutions out there for that kind of customer. But if a customer really wants to have everything in Teams, which I think a lot of customers, they set out with that intention, and then actually somewhere down the road they find out actually other things are more important, then that's kind of what will be the deciding point there.
Got it. Understand. Brandon, any final words, Brandon?
No, I think just watching this evolution, Ollie, having known you now for little over a year and a half or so, and seeing even where Luware's come in that year and a half is pretty impressive. So I think it's going to be fun to maybe follow up with you down the road on another show to see the next set of features that are coming, whether that's, something to do with AI or whatever. I think it's really cool. And this has been actually very helpful for me, having seen even some of these newer channels that you've demoed. Because I think the last time we talked, you were just bringing to market the web chat. So actually seeing the logic that sits behind it, the ability to route it and all that has been really cool. And I think our listeners are going to find a lot of value in that as well.
Yeah, we've got some cool stuff planned for the second half of this year. AI does come into that. So I've tried not to mention it too much because I'm rather focus on what we're doing right now. But yeah, let's circle back later in the year and we can show you some more cool stuff.
That's awesome. Hey, Ollie, thank you very much for taking the time to hang with us and kind of work through what what Luware does and how Luware can bring in chat, can bring in email, can bring in calls, all within the Teams ecosystem, how it kind of leverages the entire Teams ecosystem to deliver on more and more kind of integrated services and features into organizations. I think this was a really cool episode. It's nice to get caught up with you. It's been a little bit, and like I said, full disclaimer, Momentum does sell Luware. We do partner with Luware quite a bit. And so it's exciting to see you come on, Ollie, and kind of lay it out for us and show us some things. The dashboards, I'm going to tell you, I thought was awesome. I've not personally built dashboards in Luware in a while lately, and to see the dashboard for creating your reporting out of the box, I actually thought it was pretty exciting. So don't want to reveal anything about my personality there.
It's been a while since I've been in. You've never built a dashboard in.
I built a dashboard before. It's like I can cut paper out and
here's how this goes, Ollie. He's laughing because you're like I mentioned analytic geek, and I wasn't necessarily calling you a geek, but he gets really jazzed. He gets really jazzed when he sees anything to do with Power BI. So let's not kid anyone. This guy likes analytic data as much as you and I like analytic data.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't even know what Power BI is.
It's the new cool thing to like, I think, Power BI. Yeah.
The answers are in the numbers. That's what I'm saying. Okay. All right. Ollie, hey, thanks for spending the hour with us. We really appreciate it. Listeners out there, load your questions live. We'll have some answers for you. And it's good to see you guys. That's the wrap for episode 59. Brandon, send us out, buddy.
Yeah, two things. If you haven't got your tickets to Commsverse 2024, I think there's still tickets available. We'd love to see you in London. I think I'm going to speak for Ollie as well. We'll happily go have a beverage with you. And then second, Ollie, I know we tried to get you on last week. You had a holiday in the UK. This coming Monday is a holiday in the US. That's Memorial Day. So for those of you celebrating Memorial Day, Have a happy Memorial Day. Keep it safe, and we'll catch you next week for episode 60.